Hi, everybody. This is Carlos Caro, your host at the Free Toaster podcast. Today, we're going to answer the question, is my application experience broken? Before we get into the content today, I want to share for those of you who don't know me, I have about 20 years in the consumer lending world, spent my early career at Capital One. I moved on later to Credit Karma, where I spent 4 years as an executive in the partnerships function. And then for the last 2+ years as the leader of a marketing agency called New Market Growth, we help lenders exclusively with their affiliate marketing programs. So now into the question for today, is my application experience broken? Let's get into why this matters for a second. So in most affiliate marketplaces, your marketing funnel, how good it is, from the moment your impression is served to the moment you monetize, that's what affiliates are optimizing for. Your application experience needs to be dialed in if you want to succeed in this channel. Your volume's going to go up the better your application rate is, not just because you're converting more leads, but also because your publisher partners will want to serve your offer if you are converting better. There's a feedback loop there. And related to that, your customer quality will improve. As your conversion rate goes up and your ranking goes up, you will be shown to more qualified prospects. The basic intuition being if a prospect finds you buried at the bottom of the page, there's probably something unusual about that prospect. People tend to click on one of the first few options presented in marketplaces. So if you're at the bottom of the page or towards the bottom, that's a dangerous place to be as a lender. You risk adverse select. So benchmarks, what should you expect to see? Let's define application rate here, because I know people will define this differently. The denominator is the number of clickouts from your affiliate publisher, and your numerator is the number of completed application forms. That's what we're discussing here, application rate. If you're above 40% on application rate, I'm feeling pretty good. If you're below 40%, there's typically opportunities to improve and do better. And not to say 40% is the ceiling. I've seen 43, I've seen 45, I've seen even north of 50% application rates. That is all possible. It's not normal, but it's all possible. 40 is where I consider kind of a healthy average in the industry. If I see anything under 30, there's something really wrong. Something super broken that needs to be addressed urgently. In between 30 and 40, on the low end of 30, that's still super problematic. Towards the high end of 30, okay, that's starting to feel better to me. But I really advise my clients at New Market Growth to be above 40 whenever possible. Let's dive into common issues. So really to answer the question here, the prompt for today's show, how do I know if something's broken? So I'm going to give you a short list of some things I've seen recently that have indicated to me there's a problem. Sometimes these things are easy to fix. Sometimes, depending on your engineering and your technology stack, they can be trickier to fix. But let me run you through some of the common problems. This first category can apply to any product, but there's a second bucket I want to cover that's personal loans only. So let's start with the generic themes. So if you're asking for a username and password in your flow, I'd reconsider that. Almost every instance I've seen so far where a lender asks a applicant to create a username and password, presumably so they can come back later to finish their application or log into an online banking in the future. This has always tanked response in my experience. I just don't see a good reason to put this on critical path in an application flow, so I would remove it. Next one is leading in your experience asking for just the email. My gut here is marketers are convincing themselves that they'll be able to follow up with the consumer and recover abandoned applications later. Here's the thing. When the first page of your application form is, hey, what's your email? It starts looking and feeling really spammy and suspect. And a lot of users are dropping off. And the users dropping off are probably your best credit risks too. So I think there's a negative select dimension to this. But if we're just thinking pure response, it's a response challenge for sure. And you're just not going to be recovering as many of those folks. You're not going to be pulling them back in as often as you think. So I would drop that. I'm not saying don't ask for email, but ask for the email in the context of other information. That's going to look and feel a lot less scary. If you're asking for a customer to download your app, I see this with fintechs sometimes, and they convince themselves that it's really important for the user to have the app on their phone. The issue is a lot of folks just aren't willing to do that to apply for a product. That's tanked conversion in, I think, almost every instance I've seen. There might be a few products like Chime, things like that. Or look, they're more neobanky type products where perhaps you could get away with this. But as a general rule, credit cards, personal loans, stay far, far away from app downloads. They're going to kill your response rate.
I want to pause here for a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, Spinwheel. They've built an API that streamlines your lending application form with just 2 fields. When a customer shares just their birth date and phone number, they can go grab all the information needed to pre-fill their application form. So regardless of what channel you play in, you know that the higher the application rate goes, the lower your cost of acquisition becomes, and the more media you can buy to generate growth. Additionally, they can give you real-time verified consumer credit data and seamless payment processing, which can help you serve customers beyond the initial application. To see a demo, go to spinwheel.io or check out the link in the show notes. It'll hook you up straight with their head of growth.
Let's take a quick break in the action here, as I'd like to introduce you to our newest sponsor, Fintel Connect. They're an affiliate marketing platform that can help connect you to publishers, influencers, and manage your compliance. I'd love for you to check them out. You can find them at fintelconnect.com, Fintel connect.com, where you can connect directly with their founder and CRO. Next, slow pages. Your pages better be loading very, very snappy. I recently played with a lender application flow that was taking, it felt like 30 seconds to me between pages. Then I actually timed it and it was north of 10. So 10 seconds felt like 30. So, I mean, that's just consumer psychology here. There's just a high amount of impatience when going through the internet these days. So anything slow, I'd look to be under a second under each page load. Next, too many fields, including questions not critical to running your underwriting decision. As an example, in a credit card context, would you like to add an authorized user? Who will your authorized user be? Stuff like that. That can wait till the customer's approved and you've processed the initial application. I can't think of a great reason why you need to ask that up front. Next, multi-page flows that could be designed as a one-pager. I'm consistently telling my clients to consider testing one-page flows. I've seen them outperform over and over again on multi-page. The interesting thing here with multi-page, just to go on a little tangent for a second, I've seen multi-page flows that can convert as well as a one-pager. I've seen it possible. The issue is it's a subset. You have to really nail the headers and the calls to action and all the button copy, and there's just a lot more work to do to dial in the conversion rate for a multi-page flow. You're going to have an easier time getting there on a single-page flow, at least for credit cards, because they're much shorter information sets to collect. But I've seen brands I respect do this both ways. But if I had to steer you one direction, I'd steer you to single page flows, especially if you're a beginner and you're new at this. Next common issue is lenders that forget to remind their customer what they're on the page to apply for. So they click out of, say, Credit Karma or Experian or LendingTree. Now they're on your site in the middle of an application, and you're asking a bunch of questions, but 2 pages in, they forget what they clicked on. And now they wonder if the thing they clicked on is even the thing they want. So that's an easy thing to avoid. Anchor your product at the top. To remind them, this is the credit card with these terms. Put a picture of the product if there's a picture. If it's a personal loan, just include the monthly payment and the APR, the loan amount, etc. Make it very, very clear that they're getting what they want, and avoid that confusion. That's an easy fix. Bonus points there would be to put a little edit button up there, so that if someone's like, I wonder if there's other stuff this company offers, they can click at it and potentially see choices for other products. Okay, cool. And then last common issue, and then I'll pivot to personal loans. And then we'll wrap for today. Mismatching customer experience to the intent of the user is what I call it. But there are marketplaces where I'll use Credit Karma as an example. They log in, they're seeing a lot of products head to head. They're usually scrolling up and down. And high intent type channel. So when someone clicks on an offer that was personalized for them, there's usually a good level of intent, good deal of intent to want to close the deal. In a channel like that, I would just drive straight to collecting information and getting this thing done. In a channel that was maybe more top of funnel, more awareness, maybe it's a banner ad somewhere, then yes, of course, the user needs more context. Who are you? Why should they trust you? What products do you have? Et cetera, et cetera. So there, in that context, you might want a landing page and more explainers. But high intent channel like Karma, just focus on conversion and collecting information. And if you can get the co-branding, whether it be with Karma or another publisher, get the co-branding set up at the top of the application flow. Customers can remember that there's an association between you and the marketplace where they were shopping. Okay, now personal loans, just a couple quick questions I'd like you to ask yourself. These are high leverage. I've seen the answers to these questions matter in other contexts. So one, where do you put the contract? Do you put it early in the flow? Do you put it late after you've collected a lot of information and have verified income and employment and things like that? Think hard about where you put the contract and why. And go study the marketplace. I think you're going to see a good deal of variation around different lender philosophies there. Similar to that or related to that, when do you ask consumers to verify employment or income? How do you conduct those verifications? Is it API oriented? Is it PDF upload? Is it Plaid? All of that matters. Do you give consumers the option to top up their origination fee? So many lenders today are asking for anywhere from 3 to 9% origination fees on an unsecured personal loan, and that's usually coming out of the principal of the loan. So if they wanted $10,000, they may only be getting $9,500 in a loan. Think hard about whether you want to give customers the option to top that up to the loan amount they initially requested. And then when and how do you communicate the origination fee? Because many platforms aren't as explicit about the origination fee as I think they could be. So think hard about how and when you communicate that. And then to close out today, how do I find high-performing application pages? If I want to see examples from the marketplace, I would just go to the large affiliate marketplace channels and go look at what products are in like the top 4 or 5 slots, and then really obsess over their designs. How are they doing it? Chances are, if they're at the top of these large marketplaces, their application rates are strong. They have to be strong enough by definition to command those positions in those marketplaces. So definitely study those top players and see what you can learn. That's going to wrap for today. I hope you found this quick walkthrough helpful. If you ever have questions about your application flow and you want a third-party take on it, I'd be happy to chat about that. You can reach me at carlos@newmarketgrowth.com. Thanks for hanging out today on the pod, and I hope to see you again here soon.